Okay, so after our last episode, where I played what was clearly obviously a fake conversation that wasn't really Chris Fagan or Joe Danaher, I was just having a bit of a laugh. I got a little bit of feedback from someone possibly called Karen. Maybe not, but let's just call her Karen anyway. And her feedback basically said to me, "Hey, that's not really Chris Fagan. How dare you besmirch his name?" And I mean, it was really Gene Hackman, who's pretty bloody good at what he does. Yeah, so anyway, naughty me. I got put in the naughty corner for a couple of days, had a dunce's hat on my head, and had to face the wall for half an hour and not look back at the class. So what I've done this week is I've actually got some snippets, and I promise you this is really Chris Fagan. I am not lying this time, and I know I've admitted to being a liar in the past. Like that time I said I liked David King. But this is really some snippets from Chris Fagan's press conference after our game against the Hawks. So here it goes.
It's disappointing. It's not the end of the world. They're a pretty good side, Hawthorn. They've been in good form lately. So we knew that we had our work cut out for us today, that we'd have to play at our very best, and we weren't able to do that for long enough periods in the game.
What is it about Hawthorn the last 5 times they've got you?
Well, if I knew the answer to that, they wouldn't have got us today. It's just one of those quirky things about sport, I guess. We had our moments at the start of the game. Yeah, our pressure dropped, and their ability to win contests and break our tackles went up. Well, but we've had a bit of injury.
Yeah.
We've been inconsistent within games. Our scoring accuracy has hurt us in some of our losses. So it's a variety of things. It's not any one thing. That you can't afford to, get too downhearted about results. You just got to get yourself ready for the next game and start again. That's how I see it. We've playing a lot of young players at the moment too. A lot of those guys haven't played over 30 games yet, so we're quite young for us. I think that I've got a positive outlook towards the second half of the season. Whether we get there or not's another thing, but that'll be our aim, is to have a better second half of the year than we've had a first half of the year. I'll stay out of commenting on umpires. I've got nothing to say about that. I just don't want to go buying into it too much. It just does look a little bit different at the moment.
See, I told you I wasn't lying this time. It really was Chris Fagan. And that's just basically the most important parts and the gist of stuff he said in his post-match press conference. There's a little bit of waffle here and there. But, hey, that's what we do here too. So we're used to it. And probably so are you if you're a regular listener. All right, so also there's a bit of discussion on Fox Footy between David King and the other boys in the first crack, and you'll hear it in a minute, and it also will then lead into On the Couch, I think it's called, the show that has Gary Lyon, Jono Brown, and former Brisbane Bears legendary player Nathan Buckley, who had their thoughts on what David King had to say. So here we go.
I just wonder, when you look at the Brisbane Lions list and their football club being so settled and such a great place at the moment, they've had a great run with Chris Fagan. He's set them up for this opportunity for potentially an 8-year window that they're probably halfway through. Would it be too ruthless to put all chips in the basket and go and get Chris Scott? And so we've had 4 or 5 chances with you, Chris Fagan. You've done nothing wrong. You've been a very good coach, but we just think if we can get a great coach, an absolute top liner who's been there for a long, long time and done it against the odds more often than not, that he can come in and we can refresh this message to the list and give them a chance whilst they're still in the window to win that elusive flag. What's it worth to win a flag?
So, love when people have strong opinions, and it's not always going to be a popular one. It won't be a popular one with Chris Fagan. I can guarantee you that. So. He went again this morning and said, it's not a slight. This is not a slight on Fags. I reckon it was when you're saying...
So there it is. David King waffling on to hear his own voice. Gary Lyon, Jono Brown, and the big dog Nathan Buckley refuting pretty much everything David King said. And I reckon John O'Brien really wanted to say, listen to this idiot. But anyway, let us know what you think about what Kingy had to say in comments. Send us an email at brisbanelionspodcast@gmail.com. We also have a SpeakPipe account. Look for We Are the Pride on speakpipe.com, or just message us on our socials and let us know what you think about not only what Chris Fagan had to say and Kingy and the other boys. But for now, it's time for the show. So play the bloody theme music. Hello, everybody. We're not really up and about this week, are we? But we should be, because we love our football club, and you've got to excuse my voice. I've probably got COVID. If not, I've got something else. Got one of the many flus that's going around, I think. So if my voice has a little bit of interference in my microphone, I'm sucking on cough lollies because, that's just what you do. And anyway, no one cares about my business because it's not all about me. It's all about the footy club. And a bloke who loves the footy club as much as I do is Al McGovern, and he joins me now. Welcome, Al.
The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
Ash, how are we?
Well, yeah, as you may know by now, I'm pretty sure I've got COVID for the second time.
Oh, jeez.
And how ironic that I got it at the grand final and I possibly got it at the very next game of AFL football that I went to.
Yeah, well, that's true, but also it's kind of crazy that you didn't get it earlier, when it was peaking in the, 2020, 2021.
Yeah, well, because I worked all the way through it, so I had a fair bit of public contact, did a bit of footy coaching in those periods of time that they allowed it. And one of the years I had the under-10s, I think it was, and you know what, like 7, 8, 9-year-old kids are like snotty noses everywhere. And
yeah, of course.
They come up and hug you like you're their mum or their dad and whatever.
Yeah.
Because, you're basically the best free babysitting parents can buy.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so I went 4 years without getting it. So
I still haven't got it to this day. So my partner and both my kids have all had it, but none at the same time, like all about it 6 months to a year apart from each other.
Yeah, there you go. Just hopefully you don't get it. Good friend of mine had it about a month ago, and I didn't get it then. But yeah, whatever. It is what it is. Hopefully it's not COVID and it's just something else, and it goes away. And hopefully, in the same breath, the football club returns back to the football club we know and love.
Well, I was going to say, we have a bye this weekend at both levels, so maybe you can use it as a rest weekend and get yourself back to it, and hopefully the team can get back to it as well. Oh,
look, you can guarantee I'll be jumping on the bike or doing some sort of exercise.
Yeah.
Because, I'm trying to make myself healthier and better and all that sort of thing. And
yeah, that's good.
Trying to stay on this planet for a few more years so I can piss off a few more people.
That's it, mate.
Yeah. All right. Well, just for the listeners, we're just going to concentrate on our AFL game in this episode. We will give you a wrap-up of the mid-season draft and of the VFL win against Box Hill later in the week. And I do also have a special episode coming out that I pre-recorded. And I listened back to the audio last night, and it's a bit cringy, so I'm going to fix a few things up. No, look, because it was an all-Australian, all-time all-Australian Brisbane and Fitzroy team, and I kind of stumbled around a bit on the current players because I recorded it back in February, and I was like, yeah, they've played, about this many games, because I was like trying to make it sound like it was mid-season.
Yep.
So I'm just going to go back and fix all that up, so I don't sound like a bigger idiot than what I normally do. All right, so the game. Well, we lost. That's
Yeah, it wasn't a good one.
um, and it's kind of like I was pretty devastated. So Neil, who's been on the show a few times now, he sat with us.
Yeah, that's right.
He sat beside me. We were both up and about, and we were really upbeat and ready to roll at the start of the game. Brendan Ryan kicked things off with his first goal for us.
Yep.
Very early on, and Neil and I were in good spirits. My kids were high fiving, and yeah, I think by the end of it, poor Neil, I felt bad for him. He was pretty upset and took it pretty badly.
Yeah.
As did I. I was really downbeat. I could see things unfolding that I knew the players were good enough to stop them unfolding, but they weren't doing it.
Yeah, there were some warning signs early, where we obviously the scoreboard wasn't that bad throughout. I mean, there was never a huge blowout really. Oh, actually, no, they were up 40 points at one point, weren't they? But we clawed back to within a goal.
Period where they kicked about 7 or 8 goals in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fagan talked about it in the press conference, but he kind of just, didn't really get angry or fired up about that. But
he rarely does about anything.
Yeah, we're kind of getting used to that now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will say I did wash my sorrows down with a hot dog post game once I got home.
Yep.
Had jalapenos on it, so that's certainly got the sinuses opened up a bit.
I was going to say, you're using the spice to kind of take your mind off the game a little bit, hey?
Yeah, look, I love eating spicy food, but yeah, this was good.
Yeah, me too.
Because I saw everybody eating hot dogs at the ground. I'm like, I'm not buying one here. Last time
it's so expensive.
Well, at a Brisbane and Essendon game many years ago, I bought a Kreisky dog for $14 back when $14 was probably worth about $30 in today's money.
Yeah.
And I had to take a week off work. I had the worst food poisoning I've ever had in my life.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah, so, but we won that game anyway, so that made that worthwhile.
Yeah, not so much this time, hey?
That was the famous one I've referenced a few times where Ruben Williams played his only game for the club.
Yep.
Yeah, so like you mentioned the I'm pretty sure you mentioned the scoreboard. I think my brain's starting to fade a bit too. Maybe I have got the COVID fog. Yeah. So look, I mean, both had 25 scoring shots, but we lost by 25 points.
Yeah, it's a weird kind of numerology on that one, isn't it?
Yeah, and we lost by a similar margin against them last year.
Mm.
And we lost in the exact same manner. And I think we kicked the first goal really early in that game as well at the G last year.
Yeah, well, when Brandon Ryan kicked his first goal, because it was like, first minute or something, he kicked the goal.
Yeah.
And I was going, ooh, we might have one here. Not necessarily getting cocky about the game or anything like that, but just thinking like, oh, maybe we've got, this secret talent that, no one really predicted except for like the recruitment team or something like that. But as the game went on, he didn't really offer up too much more than that and was subbed out, third quarter?
Yeah, so look, to me, he wasn't a suitable replacement for Eric Hipwood.
No, I was a bit surprised to see his inclusion. I wanted Henry Smith in instead of him, to be honest.
Oh, look, I would have taken a marathon runner or a long distance runner because that's what we missed. And this is one of the first things in my notes was the forward group was dysfunctional without Hipwood.
Yeah.
All that running he does. I know he doesn't get a lot of the ball, doesn't kick a lot of goals most of the time, but he does do a lot of running. He takes one of the big dogs away from the forward, our forward 50 area.
Mm.
He's up and down the ground. He's making repeated sprint efforts or whatever. Brandon Ryan had none of that. He was basically a goal square or nowhere.
Yeah, I would have probably. I mean, obviously Harry Sharp was the sub, and he's not even arguably he is the best runner at our club and probably a few clubs.
Probably in the whole cop, to be honest.
I think he was pretty stiff to get made the sub. I personally probably would have made Bruce Revel the sub because, he shows good stuff, but he has problems running out games. He has one of the lowest percentages of on field time, or time on ground, I should say, is the official title for that stat.
Yeah.
Every week for our whole team. I mean, he's at 66%.
Yeah,
and there's only Bailey and Rain and Ryan below him on our team for the week.
I would hazard a guess that it's probably the lowest for anyone in the league who's a starter.
Yeah.
I mean, Sharp has superior fitness. He can run quickly over sustained periods of time, repeat efforts. Really not a good use of the sub. And let's face it, it's never been our strong point, the use of the sub.
No, we've never really picked anyone that I've gone, oh, geez, he's the perfect sub.
Yeah.
Because we were, last year we made basically Jared Lyons our permanent sub for most of the year. And then he was never really having much impact when he came in. He'd always come in like halfway through the last quarter, or, for the full last quarter or something like that.
Or with 5 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
It's just silly stuff like that. We haven't really worked out a good strategy for the sub use. And I've heard that, there's talks, because there's got to be changes every offseason. There's got to be changes because they need to generate clicks and stuff online.
Yeah.
But I've heard that one of the rumored changes is they're going to drop the sub and just put 5 on the bench, and then just whatever strategy you want to use from there. I think that's probably a better way to do it.
Makes sense. And I look, the speed of the game and the amount of mileage that they cover in today's football, it makes more sense to do it that way. Just give them 5. And if one guy goes down, one guy goes down, you got 4.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And I mean, like, when you're looking at some of the, your best runners for the game, doing basically a marathon, in kilometers, or half marathon, I can't remember how many. Some of them run like nearly 20 kilometers. So
a marathon's about 36, 37.
There you go. Nearly half, just over half a marathon or something like that. Some of the higher end guys, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, just and that now that you said that, I want to say something. This is for people on social media. Anybody who goes onto social media and writes that this footballer has got no heart, this footballer doesn't know how to work hard, this footballer is lazy. Seriously, they run that far during a game, but they do so much work at training during the week as well.
Yeah, that's true.
To be an AFL footballer, you have to work hard.
Yeah.
And so I know I referenced Will Schofield a bit, and he's probably a pretty good point of reference. So he said during this week on the Shelter Footy cast that he does with Mark Reddings that he's seen guys rock up at the Eagles over the years, and he was there for 14 years, and he would know within a week if they weren't going to make it, and they didn't.
Yeah.
Nobody who stays on the list, nobody who stays on the list longer than a year is lazy, soft, pea-hearted, or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, he played in a couple of grand finals and whatever, and he played for a club that had John Worsfold, a renowned hard ass, as a coach, and Adam Simpson, and also a renowned hard ass, as the other coach. So yeah, but like, that's just my little grumble to people on social media. Have a think before you go and call footballers out. They actually work harder than what probably 99% of the rest of us do. I know they work a lot harder than what I do.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, just think of like the transition game and how much work they have to do there. So if like say the opposite team wins the center clearance and the ball goes down to their forward line, and they kick a behind, and the ball immediately comes back and travels the whole distance back down the other field. You got to go from one end to the other end, back to the other end. And that's a big field. It's like, what's like 150 meters roughly from goal to goal?
Am I here? Am I here? Yeah.
Yeah, you cut out a little bit.
Yeah,
I couldn't hear you or anything.
Sorry
that's all right. We'll just have to cut that bit out. That's all good. So what? It's like 150 meters from goal to goal, roughly.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, so that's a pretty significant distance if you have to, go all the way down one end and then immediately turn around and run all the way back if there's a turnover or something like that. that's a significant distance. So those guys are exhausted by the time they get to the other end, and then they have to do that over and over and over and over again for, 4 quarters. So it would add up, and the average person couldn't do it.
No,
And there's a reason that they're all elite athletes. It's because there's not many people that can do that.
that's it, and that's how they get into the system. By being that fit and that, having that and obviously having sustained careers by having that mental fortitude to be able to do so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, we'll move on from that. I just wanted to have a bit of a.
Well, actually, a little side note, just because I'm looking at the stats here,
Yeah.
it's related to exactly what we were just talking about. Guys like Joe Danaher get called lazy a lot. And I'm just looking here, and he had 100% time on ground. So he wasn't on the bench at all for the entire game.
Yep.
So, yeah, that goes to show he's a pretty hard worker, and he's always out there doing stuff.
Yeah, and he does get up the ground a fair bit as well, and
Exactly.
he gives Big O a chop out in the ruck. And that's the thing,
Yep.
like I've heard people calling, Big O lazy and slow and lumbering. The guy gets to every stoppage around the ground for the whole time he's on the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, guys like him and Gorn and, Tim English, Grundy, all those guys that get to every single stoppage, ball up, throw in, whatever.
Yep.
These guys are super fit.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of take it for granted when we just they just appear, and it's like, all right, well,
Yeah.
the game's continuing, and things are happening so quickly, you just don't really pay attention to how much work goes into that thing being able to happen. But yeah, when you think about it, oh, quick, there's a stoppage 50 meters away. All right, well, I got to sprint there, and then I still have to have enough energy to win that contest and get the ball out accurately. And then, I have to go down the other end and do the same thing. It just literally never ends.
Yeah, so I just want to add to what I was saying about the forward group being dysfunctional. So I'll explain it a bit more. So basically, we've had Hipwoods running up the field. You saw guys like Lohman, Bailey, even Logan Morris pushing further up, deeper towards the D50 and that sort of thing. Doing that work that Hipwood normally does, which then left the forward line, I guess, a bit more open, but not having those guys, those mercurial sort of guys like Lohman and Bailey, and I will chuck in Logan Morris as well. I mean, there's some pretty mercurial things. They were getting away from the area where they're at their most dangerous.
Yeah,
a lot more because we didn't have Brendan Ryan clearly wasn't able to do that gut running that Hipwood does.
Yep.
So that's something. Obviously, Hipwood's probably going to be back next game. You would assume that's something that will change, and those guys will be able to make the most of it. Having said that, Lohman did, and Bailey did pull off some pretty magical goals as well. So,
yeah, well, we should have 2 pretty significant people back by the time, because obviously we have a bye this weekend. By the time the Bulldogs game comes around, so Brandon Starcevich is expected to be available for that game as well.
Yep.
So you think they're both immediate straight ins.
Yeah, I mean, look, Hipwood for Ryan Starce is a watch and act, I guess, on who he replaces because
that one's a bit more of a board shuffle because it's not like there's a guy in his immediate position that you could replace because
and we've had
there's a few guys who could shuffle around.
We've had this discussion a couple of times about when we didn't know how long he was going to be out for.
Yeah, exactly.
Because everybody down back's playing pretty well most of the time. So
yeah.
Look. During the game or late in the game, I wrote in my notes on my phone that there seemed to be a lack of effort or intensity for some players during big parts of the game. And look, I want to preface this by saying I love this guy personally. He's done some really nice things for my daughter over the years and been really, really polite and respectful to us when we've come across him.
Yep.
And he's a really good footballer. Obviously, he was a number 1 draft pick for a reason. But Cam Rayner needs a rocket up him. He, we've spoken about him and said that he's always that almost player.
Yeah.
On Sunday, he was not the almost player. He was below that. from what?
Yeah, and like he's copped a, we're recording this on Tuesday night, so obviously there's been a lot of media since the game, and he's copped a bit of a whacking kind of all over the place. But I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it needs to be addressed, I guess, a little bit.
it does. And look, he's done some really good things for this football club plenty of times on field.
Mm.
I'm not saying he's never done anything, but
No,
look, from at ground level where I was sitting, it looked like his opponent was James Sicily. Happy to be proven wrong on that because at ground level you don't catch every single thing across the ground.
yeah,
But what I saw was Rayner generally running 2 meters behind Sicily when Sicily had the ball.
yep,
Having said that, Sicily was quite often just on his own out in the middle of nowhere, and we let him get that way. And if he was Rayner's man, I know you said to me that the commentators were saying that Lohmann was his man.
yeah, which I never really quite understood why they were
No.
saying that. I never got the impression that was the case.
No, I can't have that. At the ground, there's no way that Lohmann was playing on him.
Yeah, and they also said that Lohmann was doing a poor job of holding on to Sicily, and I was just thinking, I don't think that's his job. I don't think he's supposed to be anywhere near him.
Well, we as a football club, or they as a football club, however you want to word it, as a united playing group, did not do a good enough job of guarding Sicily.
Yeah.
And this is 2 games in a row against Hawthorn now that they just let him have no opponent, stand there, get all these cheapies. And I said this before the game. He's going to get 40 cheapies at the back. I don't know how many he got, but the only time he got into a physical contest for the entire game, he gave away a free kick because he didn't know how to how to do what he needed to do, and then he got the sooks and whinged at the umpire when the free kick went against him.
Yeah, you and I both kind of made a similar prediction because he was an in for this game because he'd been out injured for a little while.
Yeah, dislocated his shoulder.
And we both said that he was going to be a massive inclusion because he's just one of those guys, and there's a few of them throughout the competition where they just always have really good games against us and they always tear us apart. It's like your Jamie Elliott's for Collingwood. It's like your Toby Greens for the Giants. Like it's there's just a few guys. It's usually like one guy on every list.
Yeah,
that just always has a really good game against us for some reason.
I remember for a period it was Billy Gowers.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing. But yeah, back in the day, back in the 3-peat era, it was always Scott Lucas from Essendon always seemed to kick 5 goals against us. He probably didn't always do it, but it felt like he did.
Yeah.
And Brad Johnson, every time he played at the Gabba against us, always has murdered us.
Yep.
And I met him at a function once and asked him about that, and he said he loved playing at the Gabba because everybody was so good to him. And I'm like, I wish we weren't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's just like we both kind of predicted that a little bit specifically for him. I mean, we both predicted a win, but we both predicted that Sicily was going to have a massive impact on the game.
Hey, I got within 1 point of the margin. I just got the team wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
I am as anyone who is in the tipping comp that I run, and there's a few listeners I know there are. That as any of them would know that have been in the tipping comp for a few years, I'm not very good at it.
Yeah,
I mean, I've picked North Melbourne every week this year.
I think that's just called being a masochist at that point.
No, that's I'm not touching that. No, my logic is they're going to win one sooner or later.
Yeah.
This might take me 22 goes to get there.
More emphasis on the later, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Surely they beat the Eagles at home later in the year, but
that'll be an interesting one. Have they played Richmond yet? I can't actually remember.
No, because Richmond have only had the 1 win and Norfolk had 0 wins. So
yeah,
that'll be a
because Richmond's 1 win was against the Swans.
Yeah,
which they're massively on top of the ladder at the moment. Like they look unstoppable, but Richmond beat them.
Best team in it, but Richmond beat them, and but that happens in football, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure. That's one of the best and worst things about footy is just how unpredictable it is. Any given Sunday, as they say.
It's like when we, going back to our three-peat era, we always seem to lose to North Melbourne and Richmond all the time.
Yeah.
And, it's funny about that, isn't it? But yeah, and on that too, I think, with us against Hawthorn as well, I think it's more mental than skill. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be, but I can't work out why it would be specifically Hawthorn.
Yeah, and remember, you and I used to say this about Richmond. I remember us having conversations saying there's just a mental issue there. There's nothing wrong with the team or who's in it or how they're playing. And I don't think that the team really played as bad as what some people are making out on Sunday.
No, it was just frustrating. It just comes down to missed opportunities. Like you said, we had the equal amount of shots on goal as they did, but they just were more accurate, and that's really what it came down to. I mean, there was massive momentum swings both ways. I mean, they got 40 points up at one point, but we clawed back to within a goal, and then they just blew out again, and then we clawed back a little bit, and then they blew out again, and that was so. It wasn't like we just were crap the entire game. No. It wasn't like there was no effort. Like, there was definitely effort. It just, the skill felt a little off, and it looked like a few of the boys were a bit mentally off the mark. It was just a weird game, and I'm very much looking forward to never having to think about it again.
Yeah, well, once we wrap up recording, you don't have to listen back to this episode, and I probably won't either, because I'm sure I sound disgusting with whatever flu virus I've got. So look, I'm gonna have an opinion on what should happen with Rayner.
Sure.
Now, I don't want to join the drop him chorus, but my suggestion is to get him in the VFL for 2 weeks, not to drop him, but to go out there, put him in the middle.
Yep.
Right. Say, right, you're the Lachie Neale today of the VFL.
Yep.
You get in the middle. You show us what you've got. Go and get 32 weeks in a row.
Yep. Build some confidence.
Get that alpha male back into you that you used to have.
Yep.
Puff your chest out. Come back to the AFL. And do what it is you you can do, but you're not currently doing.
Yeah, look, he had a really bad game. Like I said to you, I was texting you throughout, but you were there, so you weren't super responsive. But that's just because you were at the game. He didn't get a single stat at all until 10 minutes to halftime.
Yeah,
like not a single, not even just his first touch. Nothing. No goal, like no assists, no. Nothing. His stat sheet was completely zero until 10 minutes till halftime.
Yeah, and I hate singling out one guy or, one or two individuals, because that's not fair. Ultimately, it's a team game, and the team loses the game, not one or two guys.
That's true.
But in this instance, this is more of a suggestion to help Rayner rather than say, you're a naughty boy, go to the VFL for 2 weeks because you're not trying. Because I'm sure, look, and I said this on Facebook to a couple of people the other day, not one player in that team woke up on Sunday morning and said, you know what, I don't like the supporters this week, I'm just going to go out and lose and I'm not going to try. That doesn't happen. People seem to think it does happen. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Rayner didn't wake up that morning and think, if they put me on James Sicily, I'm just going to let him do his own thing. He was trying. It just wasn't working for him, and I think he needs to have a change. Hear a different voice as well. Ben Hudson instead of Chris Fagan for a couple of weeks, and that doesn't hurt.
No, it doesn't. And I mean, like, looking at the stat sheet, you got guys like Jasper Fletcher and Kalamachu who had statistically pretty comparable games to Rayner, but it felt like both of them had a lot more impact on the game.
Yeah, look, Archie, our boy that we love, he probably didn't have his best game of the year.
No, but there was a few moments where he made things happen, and that's the same with Fletcher as well.
Yeah.
Whereas I can't remember a single thing that Rayner did through the game where it looked like he was being a team player.
Yeah, and the thing I noticed with Fletcher being at the ground as well, something I had forgotten from last year that I noticed since the couple of games I saw him play live. He does it. He's lucky, but he does a lot of stuff off the ball. Does a lot of running. He gets from contest to contest to contest.
Yeah.
He doubles back. He does a lot of defensive work, blocking and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I was probably a little bit hard on him earlier in the year because of what I'd seen on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't see this other stuff. But
Yeah,
and look, again, I don't think Fletcher had his best game of the year either, but it's definitely not statistically, but he didn't disgrace himself either.
No. So I something needs to happen with Rayner. I like him a lot, like you do, but I think he just looks a bit lost. Like he needs to be given a position. He seems to just be chucked in the team because they go, a lot of talent, high ceiling of potential, but he doesn't really seem to be given a job. He just kind of floats around and looks for something to do. And if the team's not doing well, then he doesn't. There is nothing for him to do.
Like I said this earlier in the season, if you recall that he was standing out there stargazing a bit, looking confused because he didn't know what he was meant to be doing. What was his role? Who's his opponent? Yeah. What's his job? Is he a midfielder? Is he a wingman? Is he a half forward? Is he a tall forward? Is he a small forward? Yeah,
Yeah.
Just like it's frustrated me for years. And that's why I preface the whole thing about Rayner by saying this is not a dig at him at all because
because I don't like doing that either. Like
no,
I've got nothing against any of these guys personally.
No,
but when individual guys have a really bad performance, and he had a really bad performance, it needs to be addressed.
Yeah, well, that's it. So I guess we'll let's just we'll put a pin in that and see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go down the whole Fagan's favourites road and whatever. That's just, that's been flogged to death. And it's been proved, you and I have proven that that's not necessarily the case.
And no, I used to think so. I don't think so as much anymore. A little bit, but not as much. I don't know.
Yeah. So statistically, and we've touched on this briefly a couple of times already, but this across most of the stats was fairly even across the board.
Yeah.
We had a lot more marks again.
Mm-hmm.
And they seemed to run and carry a lot more than what we did. I felt that we obviously our players took a lot of marks, but they were really slow to move the ball on from the position that they marked it in, looking downfield for setups. Problem is when our boys are setting up, so are their boys.
That's true.
But yeah, Hawthorn, from what I could see at ground level, happy for you or anyone else who watched it on TV to tell me otherwise. It looked to me as though Hawthorn were getting handball chains out wide, running in waves out wide, pushing the ball further out the further they ran, and then coming inboard once they got to sort of around about that 50-metre line. The Giants did something very similar. The Hawks did that to us last year at the G as well. That's clearly something that clubs have identified as a way of beating the Lions.
Yeah.
It's something that I guess, well, if we had a strategy coach, he probably would have picked up on that and come up with an idea.
Well, we did get rid of our strategy coach in the off-season, so...
Yeah, look, and I'm probably going to upset some people by saying this, and, I'm not going to say who told me, but it came from a pretty good source that it was Mark Stone, I think his name was.
Yeah.
Didn't get along with Fagan, rubbed him up the wrong way, was constantly getting on Danny Daly's goat because he wasn't doing half the things he was meant to do, and Danny was having to do a lot of his work for him. That's what I've heard. I'm not going to edit this part out because I don't have any connection to Mark Stone, so if he gets offended, then maybe he should have gotten along better with Fagan and Danny Daly.
Well, I did think it was interesting that when he left, we didn't fill that position.
Yeah, I
kind of just left it empty.
I wasn't on board with that. I couldn't have it. I just felt at the time, and I did say so at the time as well, that you can't take that away and not replace it. You can't just have a bunch of guys who are already, like the line coaches are already busy enough.
Yeah.
with what they're doing, let alone then analysing the opposition, the entirety of the opposition every week.
Yeah.
They've got to work with the guys that they've got. And they've got probably each line coach has probably got maybe 15 guys that they work with. When you include the VFL players and the academy boys or top-up players as well. And it was interesting, Scott Boulais was at the post-match function, and he did say that, he and Dale Morris work on the same page with how they go about things with the defensive groups, and the other line coaches in the VFL and the AFL all work with the same strategies as well. So you've got a few more heads sort of getting in there. I think you need one guy in charge of that department. Every other club does.
It's baffling that that's the case and we never really replaced that position. I also think that it's also kind of crazy that the soft cap hasn't increased since it was decreased during COVID.
There's been talk that it is going to go up, and there's also talk now that Sydney and the Giants are going to get a bit of COLA for their coaches as well. And I mean, the cost of living in Sydney is probably like 10 to 20% more than Melbourne. I don't know what it's like anywhere else.
Well, it's the second most expensive city in the world.
Yeah. So that kind of justifies it. And, I don't know if it makes it hard to attract people there, but I don't know.
I saw a pretty decent suggestion online because obviously, before the specifics were raised, because it was just, are they going to get, is everyone going to get a big boost, including the players? And, there was someone online who was saying, some of the players would be in the top 10 earners for the entire city, so they probably don't need much. But the good suggestion that they had was that it should be for the soft cap, so all of the staff members and off-field personnel, coaches, IT, everyone that works for the club that isn't a player, and first-year players that get brought in on their initial contract should get a bump as well, because usually they only get about 80K, I think. First year draft on their initial contract, which is usually the first 2 years. And then once they've gone on to their more expensive contracts, they don't really need that.
It's 3 years now.
Has that actually happened, or is that just something that they talked about bringing in?
No, I believe so, because a lot of the talk about the Harley Reid situation was that he's at the Eagles for 3 years, regardless. So,
and he didn't sign like a 1 year extension or anything like that?
No, he hasn't yet. So, because there's been so much media about the Eagles putting an offer on the table for him to extend, and a lot of journalists coming up with some ridiculous things that they don't.
Look,
none of them have got a clue about what's really going on.
Apart from like Ashcroft and ND that plays for Collingwood, I can't think of many other first year players that signed on super early. I think Rayner did, maybe. But it's not super common.
It's becoming more common, but it's not. It's not like every single first year player chucks an extra 5 on before they play the game. And Rayner chucked, I think, an extra 2 on before he played a game.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Harley Reid thing is pretty crazy. The fact that he's, 10, 11 games into his career, and he's got all of this year and all of next year on his contract. And then, like you said, you might have even said another year on top of that. And the alarm bells are going off now that he hasn't re-signed. Like, I wouldn't be worried at all. Like, he's clearly just focusing on playing his footy, and he's playing really good footy.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like, the human cluggage thing. Every time he's off a contract, you get to March and people are like, oh, why hasn't you re-signed? He's leaving. Every single time.
I don't think so.
Every single time he says, I will sign the contract after the season finishes because I just want to focus on footy. And that's what he does every time. He lives up to it.
I have absolutely no stress on the McCluggage situation. I think he stays. He's probably going to get a bit of a pay boost.
Yep.
His form's pretty down at the moment, so I don't know if he's going to be able to bargain for as much as he initially bargained for.
He's still getting a lot of the boards. He's not having the scoreboard impact that he previously had. At his best football, but that's probably indicative of how the whole team's playing as well.
True, but who's out of contract this year as well, and also is probably having a career best year, is Jared Berry.
Your mate. your boy.
Oh, mate. Yeah, for sure.
Mate, you got a Jared Berry badge on your scarf, and
yeah, of course.
And when I come out to Brisbane, I'm going to see it and take a photo of it.
Yep, and Ryan Lester, and I won't mention. Actually, I was going to mention a few ex-players, but I won't do that.
Mitch Robinson.
Yeah, of course. I got 6 Mitch Robinson ones on there.
One for each year at the club.
Including one of his Carlton badges, just because I'm just such a big fan.
Yeah, we're going to cop some hate mail for that.
No, we love him. We love them all.
Look, as I said to an old lady in the stand one day who was a little bit upset with one of our players a couple of years back, you know what? As long as they're wearing a jumper, I love them like my own sons.
That's true.
And my own son turned around and looked at me and said, "What?"
You love Favola as much as you love me?
He's like looking at me going, yeah, I don't know if I want Fev as a stepbrother, mate.
I don't think many people do.
Apologies to Brendan Favola's mum. I don't want to besmirch your name. I don't know you.
Yeah. I'm sure Brendan's listening.
Well, yeah, I don't know, but his mum probably is. She's probably thinking to herself like everyone else, who the hell is this idiot?
Yeah, exactly.
He's heading into David King territory.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been talking about him so much, we're kind of turning into him a little bit, aren't we?
Yeah, so I guess a couple more things from the game. I mean, the third quarter was dynamic. I would use the word amazing had we kicked better.
Mm-hmm.
For goal, 3 goal 7. When the game was in the balance and we had a chance to run over the Hawks, that's been our bugbear since the Brisbane Lions became the Brisbane Lions. It's it's goal kicking accuracy is just, it seems to be in our club's DNA, and I don't like it. But
kicking 7 behinds in that one quarter is pretty wild when you consider we kicked 15 for the whole game, so almost half of them were just from that third quarter.
Yeah, and for anybody who's sitting here now saying, "Oh, well, just send all those boys back to the VFL so they can learn how to kick,"
yep.
The team we played in the VFL on the weekend at one stage had 2 goals 9 or something, and then I stopped paying attention to their score because we were about 60 points up, and I didn't really care about the other team anymore. Not that I really did anyway.
That was a really comfortable win in the VFL.
Yeah, and as I said, we will do a review on that later in the week because it's a bye week. And, also life gets in the way for us when it's a Sunday game.
True.
We're doing this a little bit later as well. So by the time most people are listening to this, we will have made our selections at the mid-season draft. So we're not going to talk too much about that right now.
No, might just touch on that and say that we have 4 available spots. And the most of any club. Don't know if we're going to take all of them.
I think we've got... Go on,
sorry, go on. No, you go.
Yeah, I think we got pick 6, maybe pick 15, 20.
I've got it right here. So we've got 6, 17, 21, and 23.
23,
if no one else skips theirs.
Yeah, because Freo waived 2 of their picks because 2 of their injured guys, it was announced this afternoon, 2 of their injured guys are coming on a bit quicker. And not every club has long-term injuries, or retirements. So not every club's in the draft. So 23 picks. We got 4. We'll probably use 3.
Yeah, well, we have 4 none of those ACL guys are coming back apart from Mashcroft.
Yeah, so that's he's number 5 on the knee injury count. So
exactly.
Yeah. So look, we've mentioned it. I would imagine we're probably going to pick up Kyle Dunkley, and I heard a bit of a rumor that we're looking at Ben Jepson at the Southport Sharks.
Oh, really? Okay, because I heard a few rumours as well. I'll just touch on a couple of quick names just because, it's tomorrow night. So, so I heard McLaughlin from the Geelong Falcons is a red-hot chance to come to us.
Yeah.
And I heard Riley Collier-Dawkins, who's an ex-Richmond player, is a chance to come to us as well.
Oh, look, I looked at about 5 different lists of players today for each state league put out their list of, hey, here's our guys that have nominated for the draft, and would it be good to see him? And I'm looking, and I saw his name, and he's one of those hyphenated names, and the Richmond fans just called him RCD.
Yeah.
And I used to chuck a 2 on the end.
Yeah, yeah. The McLaughlin fella from Falcons, apparently he's kicked 23 goals in 6 games. So,
yep,
something to look at.
Yeah, I don't think we have a need for another forward at this stage, but someone who knows where the goals are can't hurt either, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but if he's young enough and if he's playing for Geelong Falcons, so he's clearly not what their Colts is 19?
18. But yeah, so
he's probably not much older than 18 or 19. I can't remember how old exactly he is.
Yeah, he'll be a toppie. He'll be an 18-year-old.
So he could be a long-term prospect, not just an immediate, mature 6-month player or something like that. So who knows?
Yeah, so I used to watch the Falcons a fair bit, but I just having older kids now and having their things that they do, I don't really have as much time. So I haven't actually seen him play. Haven't seen any Falcons games this year, so I've got absolutely zero idea on anyone at the Falcons this year. But look, I've seen enough of that football club over the years to know anyone who comes out of there. Yeah. You look at all the guys we've had, all upstanding citizens, all really professional guys. Sam Walsh is another, Isaac Smith, like Jordan Lewis, Luke Hodge. The list goes on over the generations. Sean Higgins, dare I say it, Will Schofield.
True. Was Matho one? He was one, wasn't he?
Yeah, Matho. That's why I just grouped all our guys together.
Yeah.
Darcy Parish, who came through that same draft as Matho.
Yeah.
And look, probably guys that come from any Colts sort of team now in any state league are going to be pretty switched on and professional and much more mature than what they were when you and I were, especially when I was an 18-year-old, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've never really paid much attention to the mid-season draft since it was brought in because we haven't really needed it. I mean, it was only brought in a couple of years ago and we've been pretty high-flying in that time.
Yeah.
Injury list was always pretty decent. We were always pushing for finals, so it never really seemed like we kind of needed anyone. But the fact that we have, we are where we are, we've had the first 11 games that we've had, and we could potentially bring anywhere from 1 to 4 new guys into the team that are ready to go. I'm actually pretty excited for tomorrow night.
But yeah, look, I reckon we'll probably pick up Cole Dunkley, as I said. And as I also said, the rumours we're looking at Ben Jepson at Southport and the guys you mentioned as well. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see which way we go. I don't think we have a specific need anyway. It's more a case of we got 4 spots to fill. We can get 3 or 4 really good footballers and see where we can put them.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's the option to recruit some for 6 months or, a full year. So if we get a couple of mature already, 25-ish-year-olds for 6 months, that's probably not a bad option. Or we could try and find a hidden gem that was maybe overlooked last year's draft, an 18, 19-year-old who is playing in the, second somewhere in the country. And maybe we'll find a long-term prospect that, it's exciting.
And that's the thing too, not all guys are ready at 18.
No.
Jesus, 1993 when I was 18, so you weren't even born, mate. A very long time ago.
I was -1.
Very long time ago, but I know, when I was 18, there was probably, I was around a lot of good young footballers and cricketers and basketballers and whatever. I reckon there was probably 2 guys I knew through school and whatever sports that were probably mature enough to play senior sport.
Yeah.
I mean, I was playing senior sport, but I wasn't, obviously very mature.
Yeah.
Because, I was 18 and when you're 18, you're dumb. And that's a fact of life because we're still learning we haven't learned how to be adults yet.
That's it. So adult body and mind of a child still.
Yeah. So what you'll find is there'll be guys who weren't ready at 18, but at 19, 20, 21, they're a completely different beast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just my last couple of things on the game.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the goal kicking is something that we've talked about ad nauseum. Don't need to keep going on about that. So public transport to and from the game was mental. Every train coming from every single direction, because there's 2 games on in Melbourne City at the same time, basically, was like being in the back of a cattle truck. And
there's a train station right near the stadium, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. And like, what the problem is that the train stations in Victoria are long enough for 6 carriages, no more.
Yeah.
And that's the major one. So we come from the country. We go on the regional rail service, 6 carriages. We were pretty lucky. There's a lot of Brisbane supporters on our train that we went on.
Yep.
Neil came on the train an hour later than us, and he messaged me during his journey and said, "Mate, there are so many bloody Hawthorn supporters here. It's ridiculous." It's surprising that there's that many living in Geelong, considering the rivalry between those 2 clubs. But
yeah.
So hang on a second. Oh my God. Imagine that, eh? Someone sneezed in the middle of a podcast. Public transport, I don't know, there's nothing they can do to make it better.
Mate, you just wait till you come up to the Gabba, mate. There's no train station in the Gabba. They're building one right now.
Yeah.
But you have to either walk, but there's no parking anywhere near the Gabba.
Yeah, I knew that part, yeah.
There's no parking and there's no train, so they have bus services, and it is insane. Like, obviously you can't fit very many people on a bus.
No.
So, yeah, you're going to go to your Gabba game in a few weeks and you are going to be glad that you had that bad experience on the train.
Yeah, so I just, for the listeners, I don't drive when we play at Marvel Stadium because obviously it's next door to a train station. Parking isn't really great. If you want to park at Marvel Stadium underneath, you've got to take out a mortgage.
Yeah, I can imagine.
When you go to the MCG, though, generally there's a lot of parking. Except that final prelim against Geelong a couple of years back, they decided not to have any parking at the ground, and we had to park a few suburbs away. But,
all of the street parking near the Gabba is illegal.
Yeah.
So you have to walk like quite a distance. And the bus station's down the road. But you'd have to normally bus into the city and then catch a bus or a train out of the city to anywhere else. So it's a bit of a nightmare. But luckily they are building a train station right across the road from the Gabba. But, there's, the whole stadium question of, are they knocking it down? Are they, whatever's going on with the Olympics, that's all still up in the air. So who knows if that's even going to be needed by the time all the dust is settled on that.
Yeah, I'll just keep listening to the Raw Deal and Don Fake and let you know because that's his favourite topic.
True.
And he is much more knowledgeable on Queensland politics than what I am, obviously,
True.
because, I still thought Anastasia Palaszczuk was your premier.
She's not?
I don't know. Is she?
Oh, I might have to tune into the Raw Deal and find out.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's too many premiers left from the COVID era. Funny about that.
Yeah.
So probably the real thing, and I knew this was going to happen, I was prepared for it, and it still annoyed me, was the whole Gunston narrative. We knew he was going to be the hero, no matter, even if he had one kick for the game. We knew he was going to be the hero. We knew they were going to, play him up, and it's this whole thing. And
you're talking about the narrative from the media.
Yeah,
right.
But also
I thought you were talking about the fan narrative, which is the opposite.
The Hawthorn fans as well followed along with that. Oh, you mistreated him last year, and you made him want to leave after 1 year, and now he's back where he belongs. Where we're looking after him, and I mean, they've dropped him a few times this year. Don't kid yourselves, Hawthorn.
Yeah, exactly. But that's to go down as one of the weirdest trades of all time, I reckon.
Yeah, it is. I don't even want to think about it. Like, I know he kicked 7 goals in a game, but bug it. Who cares?
He only had one good game for us, and it was against a very poor West Coast.
Yeah, well, that's right. But yeah, like, and that narrative, like you were messaging me about the commentators claiming that he was playing a defensive role in Harris Andrews.
Yes, call back to one of your bugbears from a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
I thought it was ironic because they literally just word for word said the thing that annoyed you about the last few weeks.
It's been the whole season since the grand final, I reckon. But like, honestly, like, if by defensive role, they mean running up, punching him in the chest and punching him in the guts and shoving elbows into his back for the whole entire game and then running away from him when Harris turned around and looked at him. Yeah, that's probably playing a defensive role. Okay. Most of the time, Gunston wasn't even his opponent. But you could see there was a bit of crap going on. I mean, look, Gunston had a pretty good game. I know he got a couple of cheapy free kicks or whatever, but
look, 4.1 goals doesn't exactly scream defense, does it?
No, 4 goals is a good game in today's day and age. People saying he kicked a bag, you don't know what a bag is. 4 goals has never been a bag.
Never been a bag. A modern day bag is 5. An old bag used to be 10. But it's very rare for someone to get 10 these days.
Maybe in 1897 it was a bag, but nah. I guess he's had his moment now, and he'll probably get dropped next game anyway. And whatever. I just wanted to have a bit of a whinge about that. So the club had a post-match function afterwards. I'm going to have a gripe with their choice of MC. I know Craig Huggins has been the MC for club events for probably 40 years. And I know MCing an event in front of a lot of people is a hard job. And credit to Huggy, he does, he tackles it well. I mean, he's a radio host on a pretty big station. Well, they used to be a big station. It's a good time oldies station in Melbourne. I'm not contractually obliged to mention their name, though. If you know who Huggy is, you know who he works for. That's all I need to say. But we need some fresh blood. We need someone else. Get Sam Lord. Get Don Fay. Get Al McGovern. Get Buddy.
Yay.
Don't get me, because I'll be no good at it. Trust me. So that's why I'm really choosing my words carefully. But a couple of gaffes that he made about a couple of things. And every interview he did with players, he spoke more about himself than the players. But look, Henry Smith spoke really well. He did mention something that caught my eye was that for him to get in the senior team, he said that he has to take the place of Eric Hipwood or Joe Danaher, not Oscar McInerney.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That made my ears prick up a little bit.
Well, I mean, Eric was just suspended and they didn't choose him, so that's interesting.
That's why my ears pricked up.
Yeah.
So we got Henry Smith and Darren Joyce. Probably, look, love those guys and they spoke well, but the fans were there to listen to the guys who played in the game.
Yep.
And I there to listen to a coach who coached in the game. Scott Borlase did not. I know he's in the coach's box. He's a bit of a gopher for Chris Fagan. But I think we wanted Fagan or Murray Davis or Dale Morris or someone, Cam Bruce. And, we got Harris Andrews and Charlie Cameron sort of towards the end. They spoke really well. Harris is insightful. Charlie Cameron said sorry for the performance a couple of times. Looked really upset.
Poor Charlie, man. That's not cool.
Yeah, but look, the crowd were good. It wasn't a big crowd, but they were good. Everybody, whipped their phones out to film the boys when they're getting interviewed.
Yeah.
No photos or autographs from the players because they're on a tight schedule. Old mate Nuxie got up, had a bit of a chat about the academy.
Did he talk about Jackson Payne?
No, he did not. But
no Jackson Payne references from Nuxie this week.
No. That's Anthony Corrie for those who don't know, who don't watch or listen to kick-ons. If that is even still around.
Yeah, they're trying their best.
Hey, we love Cal Archie, so we listen to it just for a bit of Cal Archie.
I can never get enough Cal.
Yeah, a bit of Cal time for us.
That's it.
Look, it was okay. It was pretty good. It went for about probably 40 minutes. They had a raffle. I think somebody won 2 signed Indigenous jumpers and somebody else won the other prize. So,
signed by the whole team or specific player?
I think it was just signed by Harris Andrews and Charlie Cameron.
Yeah, cool.
Maybe Darren Joyce and Henry Smith as well. I don't know because they were in the room.
Yeah.
Probably Nuxie. I mean,
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. And there was another pass player standing. So Nuxie come and stood near us at one stage, and there was another past player, a really tall guy, that stood with him, and he had a past player's lanyard, like a ID thing on his lanyard.
Mm.
I couldn't place who he was, and it's going to bug me for ages, and I can't even tell you. All I can tell you is he was tall.
Yeah.
And yeah, they had a past players function on that day, so that was why there was a few sort of past players hanging around at that function as well.
I always see ex-players when I'm leaving the Gabba after games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I've seen like Jamie Charman a bunch of times. I've seen Richard Champion a bunch of times. Always just randomly, like they're not there for like, well, I mean, it doesn't seem like they're there for an event. They just seem like they genuinely enjoy going to watch the Lions play.
How good is Jamie Charman though? Have you ever met him?
Yeah, not in a while, but yeah, I have.
Yeah, so like I think it was 03 or 04. I went to Willowbank Raceway up there, up your way.
Yeah.
For the drag racing nationals, and him and Craig Lowndes raced each other in these Ford Utes, I think they were.
Yeah, right.
They were just, stock Utes that were painted up in Willowbank Raceway colours, and it was a bit of a promo. I guess, the Lions were flying at the time, and
yeah,
Lowndesy was at the top of his game as well. And and I sort of kind of know Craig Lowndes a little bit, and went up and had a chat to him in the pits, and then saw Charmo there, and I'm like, oh, I was a bit nervous, and I went up, oh, Jamie, how you going? And he just put me at ease within like 0.03 of a second.
Yeah. He and I, he realised that I'd recognised him when we were leaving the game once, and he looked at me, and I just gave him the nod, and he gave me the nod, and
Yep.
that was about it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to run up to him and be like, oh, Jamie, like, he's going, like, he's doing his own thing. He's with his girlfriend or something, I just wanted to give him a little something like, I know who you are.
Yeah, you didn't want to fangirl him like I did that
exactly.
time. And like every single time I see Clark Keating, I start hyperventilating.
Yeah.
And one day we're waiting to take the banner
Mr. September, how could you not?
This is what I was about to say. One day we're waiting to take the banner out at the MCG, and he walked past and he's shook my hand. How you going? And I kept walking. It was a bit like Swanee at the women's grand final last year, and I'm just like, oh my god, that was Mr. September. And everyone's looking at me like, ease up, mate.
Yeah.
Just settle down.
They probably still love it that people, recognise them after all this time and whatnot.
Oh no, Clark's a good guy. Come on, if you don't have a man crush on Mr. September, do you even like football?
Oh, he's a champion. Love him.
Yeah, I don't know how much before we go on our ticks and crosses and player of the round, player of the week, whatever we call it, changes from week to week. It's player of the year sometimes.
Yep.
It's on that all Australian team thing I was doing as well. So in the 80s, they didn't call it the All Australian team; they called it the VFL Team of the Year.
Yep.
You know how many times in the first 10 minutes I called it the VFL Team of the Century? It was just ridiculous. In the end, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to leave it in.
Old habits, mate.
Yeah. So, I don't know how much you want to touch on this. I was about to say, people, David King and the media and then fans and whatever going on about Chris Scott should come over and take over from Fagan.
Yeah, it seems very specific that they're not just talking about a replacement for Fagan, but they're talking specifically Chris Scott. And it's interesting because I watched the what's the First Crack it's called?
Yeah, First Crack, yeah.
Yeah, and I watched I didn't watch. I listened to the audio version of it every Monday morning while I'm at work. And it's probably one of the only footy official like Fox footy ones I actually listen to. And he's going on and on and on about how, he thinks it's the best idea and all that sort of stuff. And then Anthony Hudson's just sitting opposite him and being like, well, yeah, but you also have to think about it from the Geelong point of view. Because, does he want to go? Does Geelong want him to go? Like, there's important elements that aren't being considered.
People are going on about how, like, he should go up to Brisbane now. And I'm thinking, Chris Scott's got a job already. Like, he's got a contract.
Well, how long is he contracted for? A couple of years, probably.
Same length as Fagan. But the other thing is, you know what? Geelong have lost 16 of their last 33 games. So, like, they're not they're not going any better than us at the moment.
No.
Yeah, I know they're higher than us on the ladder, but they've also lost, I think, 4 of their last 5 games. They've lost their last 2 or 3 games at Cardinia Park.
Mm.
So is Chris Scott really better than Chris Fagan? Like Nathan Buckley said that in his thing on the couch. Like, yeah, okay, maybe it is time for a change, but comparing Chris Scott and Chris Fagan to each other and saying one's better than the other, and this is what he basically said.
Mm.
It's just not right because there's too many things to consider.
That's true. And I mean, like, we haven't really had a lot of luck in the past getting, the beloved sons back to coach.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris is more experienced and he's got a pretty proven record. I mean, he's double premiership coach for Geelong and he's been there for a long time now and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know, like you said, I don't think I mean, I would look, if it was announced that it was happening, I'd be pretty rapt.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know. I'm not that eager to get rid of Fagan. He's he brought us from, where we were at the end of the Leffage era to, a kick away from a flag 6 months ago.
2016, we were the worst football club in the country. I don't care if anyone wants to disagree with me. At any level, we were disgusting.
Mm.
Players were getting assaulted by the senior coach. That's on the public record. Not telling you anything you don't already know. Players didn't feel safe at the club. There was a lot of mental health issues in the playing group and the coaching group. The club wasn't being run very well. I mean, the board got changed. And we weren't winning games and supporters were down and out. A lot of supporters still think it's 2016, mind you, but, it's not. But
the team was unrecognisable.
Yeah, we were not a good football club. By the end of 2017, okay, we only won 5 games, but we were a 5,000 times better football club.
Oh, yeah.
And look, Chris Fagan obviously wasn't the only person. David Noble, Greg Swan, the other guys, I think Danny Daly went up there around about that time as well.
Yep.
We had Dale Tapping back in the day. He was pretty good.
Yep.
A lot of other people, obviously. But Chris Fagan played a massive big role in that.
Little John as well.
Now, do I think that, Zane Littlejohn, who I think is at the Hawks now.
Yep.
Zane was a really good switched on guy. Really, really good with the young players as well, from everything I've heard. Am I convinced that Fagan is the best coach we could possibly have? Probably not. But it doesn't matter who you are or what job you do. There's always someone better than you.
That's true, but you also have to look at what the available options are.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you can consider contracted coaches as the pool of, potential replacements at this stage, unless there's, unless Chris Scott has actually indicated that he wants that, but he hasn't publicly done that.
No.
And he wouldn't do that if he's contracted as well.
No.
So you'd have to look at who in that pool is available, and it's, it'd be a lot of untried assistant coaches. It would be some guys who, have been coaches in the past who have gone into retirement, who would probably need to come out of retirement. There's no really an easy, obvious answer.
Yeah, and for the people who want Fagan sacked now, one, that's not going to happen because it shouldn't happen. Mark Redding over in the West said this week that, there shouldn't be any coaches sacked mid-season this year, but there may be some coaching movement at the end of the season.
Oh, look, if at the end of the year it came out that Fagan wants to, step away and there's a mutual parting ways at the club, I wouldn't be surprised. I would be shocked if he gets sacked at any stage.
He doesn't deserve to be sacked. He's done way too...
No, he doesn't. And I don't think the club would do that to him. But there might be a reassessment of, well, how do you think you're going? How do you feel? And then he goes, well, I feel like I'm not the right guy anymore. And I can see something like that happening and him wanting to step away, have a little bit of break, and then maybe get involved into the Tasmania team in the next couple of years. I can see something like that.
Yeah, look, he might even want to take some time off football. I mean, the stuff at Hawthorn, regardless of what your position, whether you're on the coach's side or the player's side, or you're trying not to take a side or whatever, everyone agrees on one thing: it's taken its toll on everybody involved mentally. Yep. You can see it in Chris Fagan, you see it in Alistair Clarkson, you can see it in we know Cyril Rioli's one of the guys that's put in a complaint, and his wife Shannon.
Yep.
None of the other players have been publicly named, but I mean, most people know who they are, and you can see it in those guys as well. And the people running the Hawthorn Football Club, everybody is getting really drained by it. And I would not begrudge Fagan if he said, look, I need to just take a mental health break.
Yeah.
And as well, the shit he cops off our supporters.
Yeah.
You wouldn't hold it against him if he just said, you know what, get me away from football. I mean, Robert Walls back in the day when he finished up, when he got sacked by Richmond, he'd been a coach from, say 1978 until the late 90s, constantly Richmond, Fitzroy, Carlton twice, the Brisbane Bears, Fitzroy twice as well, I think, actually, now that I think about it. And, he was so drained, he went and lived overseas in Europe for a few years.
Yeah.
And, it does take its toll. And to the people saying, sack him now again, if we did sack him now, and it's not going to happen, but if it did happen, who's replacing him? Don't say Luke Hodge.
Who's replacing him, but also there's not going to be any immediate turnaround. Who you put in that position.
I would rather see a reshuffle at the end of the season of the line coaches.
Yeah, well, I'd like a bit more transparency on who's actually where at the moment, because it's all a bit ambiguous. Like there's not really one place you can go where it's like, it's all listed out. Oh, this guy's this coach, this guy's this coach. We kind of just get little quips here and there, like piecing things together. But these things shuffle around. I mean, Murray Davis was our backline coach for the longest time, and now he's apparently our forwards coach.
But he also mentioned on Kick-Ons a while back that he does still help out with the backline as well.
Yeah, well, there you go. Like it seems like it's all a big confusing mess.
I backed in Dale Morris earlier this year as well when we're talking about him being the backline coach, and I feel that the backline's been our strength this year.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've had 100 points put on us a couple of times or thereabouts, but that happens in football. That's not the defender's fault. Half the time, in fact, 90% of the time, it's the midfield's fault.
Is he the senior backline coach?
I'm pretty sure, but like you said, it's a bit ambiguous.
Yeah, because also he's playing VFL, and he's we were looking at trying to recruit him again.
No, I'm talking about Dale Morris, not Daniel Lloyd.
Oh, I'm gotten confused with them, and that's what I mean. It's all so confusing.
If Dale Morris was playing for us, I reckon he could still play at the level. He was the toughest bastard to ever play the game.
He still looks quite fit.
Played with a broken back in a grand final, played with a broken leg in another game. Like, Jesus Christ, he was a hard bastard.
Dale Morris, Daniel Lloyd, yeah.
All right. Look, we've done enough of that. Everybody's heard all the rubbish during the week leading up to us talking a little bit more of it.
Yeah.
About the game. We lost. That's the end of it. We move on. Hopefully, I look, the players are having this week off. Harris Andrews did say that.
Yep.
I do want to see him get back to the club next Monday, and I don't even know what day we play our next game. Oh, it's a Friday because I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see them knuckle down, work their asses off, and I don't want to hear anything in the media about we didn't come back to the club till Wednesday or whatever. That's been a bit of a gripe of mine during the year.
Yeah, too much time off, and them saying we didn't really talk about it. The best strategy was to just kind of ignore it and move on. I hate that stuff. I hate when they say things like that.
Yeah, and I want every player at the club that was there last year, whether they played in the grand final or not, I want them to start hurting and feeling emotion about losing that game. They were not given the opportunity to grieve.
Yeah, well, I mean, they had that one day, and then they were like,
Yeah.
get it all out in the one day, and then move on.
Go
And
out.
I don't think that they mentally did, most of them.
Yeah, go and cry about it. Go and punch the wall. Not a brick wall, maybe a plaster
Yeah,
wall.
don't break it. We don't need any broken hands on the injury list.
Yeah, drink a couple of cans of Monster, then punch a hole in the plaster wall. Go and cry. Go and grieve. Let your anger and your disappointment and your emotions out, and come back from it. Because nobody has moved on because they weren't given the opportunity.
Yeah. Someone said something recently on another podcast, and I think it's a pretty valid point where it was from JB from the Lions Fancast. Shout out to them. He mentioned that it feels like a lot of the boys they want to get back to the grand final to redeem themselves, but they don't want to have to put the effort in to win all the games that they need to get back to that point.
Yeah, look, and that's they used to call that champagne football.
Yeah. I think there's a bit in that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like they think that they're too good to have to go through the motions of winning all the games to get back there. Feels like they just want to fast forward to the grand final to try and redeem themselves, but they do have to put in the hard work. It doesn't just come around. It's not guaranteed to get back there.
That's it. And the old saying from one of my favourite movies, The Recruits, The Replacements, whatever it was called.
Mm-hmm.
God, I'm an idiot. I said it was one of my favourite movies, and then I didn't even know the name of it. And I used bloody footage from it in last week's episode. The Replacements.
Yeah.
Shane Falco, Keanu Reeves' character, it's a line that everybody uses all the time. And I used to write it on my arm when I was playing sport was, pain is temporary, glory is forever. And it's true. And also, chicks dig scars.
True.
That's
true.
That's from the movie. It's not.
It's a little true, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I got a few, and yeah. Anyway, let's get into the ticks and crosses. You go first. You're on crosses.
So, look, I've got 5 crosses here, but I feel like we've touched on a lot of the stuff that are in my notes.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, you don't have to go into explanations for those.
I'll just rattle them off pretty quickly. So red time goals. We gave up 2 easy goals to Gunston, and we gave up 1 to Bruce right at the end. That's been a big bugbear for a long time.
Yeah, especially
it seemed like we got it out of our game for a little bit there, and now it's come back again, and it's starting to bite us in the ass again.
Yeah, that's especially been an issue that I've had with the club over the years.
Yeah. So Gunston playing well again for the Hawks after he wasn't playing good for us. Like, I thought it was when he was not playing well for us, it was maybe he's at the end of his career, he's a bit cooked. Like, he lost his dad earlier in the season. There was a number of things why he wasn't playing well. But to see him playing well for the Hawks against us was a bit frustrating.
Yeah, he wasn't even playing well for them prior to this game either. So
true.
Yeah.
Missed opportunities cost the game. That's pretty obvious. We have the exact same amount of shots on goal as Hawthorn does, but they were, they had 15-10 where we had 10-15. So that's the game right there, 25 points.
Plus, we had a few out of bounds on a full from set shots as well.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. No one but Neil and Dunkley trying in the middle. But Dunkley's, he's basically a permanent tagger. So he doesn't get in and get the ball out as much. His job's kind of to nullify specific players and things like that. But if it feels like if Neil's not in there and at his best, the other boys don't really put in as much effort as he does. So then obviously we lose a bunch of clearances and stuff like that in the middle. So yeah, it's just a bit frustrating.
Agreed.
And then the last one was just Cam Rayner, but we touched on that a lot, so I'm not going to go super deep into that one.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to keep flogging the guy. I mean, he doesn't deserve to cop the flogging he's got. Obviously, he deserves to be spoken about, but there's a point where you can't say anymore. You just got to let the rest take care of itself. All right, so that's it for you.
That's it. Yeah, jump into your ticks.
So my ticks. My first one is Ryan Lester.
Yeah, I don't argue with that one.
In the words of Bart Simpson, "All reliable." You can't beat that.
Mm-hmm.
And he is. He's just all reliable. He saved a lot of opportunities for the Hawks to get more goals than what they got.
Yeah, I did think he was one of our best players, to be honest. Top 3, probably maybe top 5.
Marvel Stadium security did a great job of getting rid of a few nuffies. You've seen one of the videos.
Yeah, I saw that.
And we did put something on the TikTok and it did get taken down. So we've been nobbled by the man.
Yep.
In China, apparently.
Mm.
Kai Lohmann, again, he could easily have been named as the best player, and we'll see what happens with that. That may or may not happen.
He's one of the few exciting sparks every week, isn't he?
Yeah, he just gives us something, and you and I, we've said this a million times, we're hot on him being a starter and getting more game time, and he's repaid that in spades. He owes nothing else to the supporters or the club for the rest of this year, as far as I'm concerned.
I have been number 1 ticket holder of Kai Lohmann since he was drafted.
So, turns out as well, so his sister and my daughter are actually quite good friends.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I was not aware of that until Sunday.
Interesting.
Yeah, so as I said to my daughter, make sure you get invited to a few family barbecues.
Yeah. Get them listening to the podcast as well.
Yeah. I did notice that Kai's dad was he gave us a love heart react to one of our posts recently on Facebook. So
that's good. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was nice of him.
Yeah.
Lachie Neale's third quarter, we've touched on that. His performance, I mean, he was dynamic in that third quarter. The captain's quarter.
Yep.
Absolutely. And my final tick, and this shows how good I'm going, I've actually written Beery, not Berry. But Jared Berry, I think, he's in career best form at the moment.
Yeah, hard to argue with that.
So I made a comment to my son on Sunday. I said, you know what? If I'm not noticing Jared Berry, he's playing well. He goes, how does that work? I said, well, because I'm not complaining about him having brain fades, or I'm not getting frustrated by him chasing guys but not trying to tackle them or whatever. He's actually
his one-arm tackles and his kicking out of the fall and turnovers. Yeah. No, he's been good lately.
Credit to Bez. He's playing career best football. He's playing the football we've always known he is capable of.
Yeah, hopefully he can stick with it for the long term.
Yeah. So, maybe I needed a beer when I wrote that. I don't know, but So Jared Berry, good on you, mate. Big tick to you. Yep. I have definitely hit my hat a few times this season after watching you play. So that gets us into the most important part. I'm not going to say prestigious because, the Raw Deal Medal is apparently the most prestigious award in sport.
That's what they say, yeah.
Yeah, that's what Dom keeps telling us all. You can go first because, to be honest, took me a while because I could have picked any one of 3 guys, but I could also have just said no one because I couldn't pick one absolute standout. So I'll see what you've got first.
Yeah, I had to pick between a couple of different guys as well. There was a few standouts in my opinion, but I had to kind of find a good reason to whittle it down to one. But I picked Kai Lohmann.
Yeah, no issue with that. Yeah. And as I said in my ticks, I felt he could feature in that. Now, I've gone with the man I just gave a big tick to, Jared Berry.
Yep.
I think reward for effort. He's really, obviously he's had a little bit of a positional change, but he's also got a clearly defined role now.
Yeah.
He's not he's not, is he a backman? Is he a wingman? Is he a mid? Is he a forward? He's now, he's a mid.
Yeah.
And
it seems like that way, yeah.
Yeah, he's playing in the position he seems to be most happy and comfortable with. But, he's playing with maturity as well. And I feel, either one of him, Lohmann, Neale, or Berry, Dunkley, so good on going. Hey, you told me you were the tired one, mate.
Yeah, true.
Neale, Lohmann, Berry or Dunkley could have gone to any one of those guys.
It felt like Neale dropped off a bit. I mean, he had a fantastic third quarter, but he was not up to his best. And that's maybe a little unfair on him because he gets held to such a high standard because he's a dual, arguably triple premiership Brownlow medalist.
Correct.
So I think he gets held to a much higher standard. So we tend to overlook him when he doesn't have like an elite game. And I mean, looking at the stats for the game, he was equal first out of anyone on both teams at 29. So no one cracked 30 this game.
Yeah.
Him and Karl Amon were both on 29. So there you go.
I actually like Karl Amon too. I said that to Neil before the game when the Hawks are doing their pre warm up.
Mm.
Like I really like the guy. I wish he played for us. I don't know where he would play if he was playing for us, but
he's ex-Port, isn't he?
Yeah, and it really hurt me to like a Port Adelaide player.
Mm.
So when he left there, I was like, oh, I feel vindicated now.
Have we ever had a Port Adelaide player come to us? I know we've given them a few over the time. Sam Mays,
Aaron Shattuck,
Pollock as well.
Yeah,
but I can't remember if we've ever picked one up from them.
Yeah, I don't think we have.
At least not for a long time. Maybe 2000s or something like that. I have to look into that. I had a thought during the game, and it was an interesting idea that I might do maybe this coming weekend or maybe at the end of the year. Because I was thinking in my head, I was like, gee, we get a lot of players in trades from specific clubs.
Yeah,
a lot of Hawks, a lot of Crows, a lot of Cats.
Yeah.
And I had an idea to go back to all the way to the year 2000 and tally up how many trades we get from each club each year, like in players, and just kind of work out, who we pull from the most and who we pull from the least. I think that'd just be an interesting thing to look back on.
Yeah.
So I might try and organise that for next week. This upcoming weekend, or maybe towards the end of the year or something like that. I just think that could be interesting. We go, oh well, we've only ever had 2 players from this team, but we've had 15 from this team. So I just think that could be interesting.
Yeah, I feel like we've had a few go to the Eagles and probably one, if any, come back the other way as well. That's another club.
Yeah, we give out a lot, but to some teams we don't get them a lot back. We take a lot of Suns. We don't really give many to the Suns, things like that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. All right, well, have you got anything else you want to add?
No, I'm looking forward to never having to think about this game again, to be honest.
Well, next time we play them, come on, AFL, make it at the Gabba this time.
Oh, yeah, since 2019. We haven't done it since before COVID.
Yeah, even some Hawk supporters were whinging about it, saying, why don't we ever play you guys at the Gabba? And I'm like, well, if you tell me the answer, then we'll both know.
Well, think about it from a Brisbane-based Hawthorn supporters' point of view.
Yeah.
They must be fuming.
Yeah, I don't know how many of them there are up there, but there will be some.
That guy's pissed up there.
Yeah. And we didn't even play him up there during the COVID year. During the hub year. No, because...
we played him at Metricon.
No, we played him at the MCG.
Did we?
Round 1.
Oh, I thought you were talking about during the Queensland hub.
Yeah, because we'd already played them that year.
Oh, yeah, because that was the year that it got shut down.
Yeah. And, we talked about that last week, actually.
That was Dev Rob's debut game.
Yeah. I think,
Another one, too. We've had a lot of Hawks games that we'd rather forget, to be honest.
Yeah, but don't forget the old Shade game. That we'll never forget that one.
No, never forget that one. That's classic.
Yeah. All right, well, that'll do us then. And, I'll get this out on Wednesday night. And like I said, if you're listening by now, I will have probably tried and failed to get the YouTube live thing up during the draft. It'll probably end up being my webcam pointing at the side of my face or the top of my bald head or something like that.
It sounds like an exciting time for the viewers, mate.
Yeah. So, well, look, it's the first time for everything, and we'll see how it goes.
That's it.
All right, too easy. Let's get out of here.
Till next time.
Yeah. Till later in the week, I guess.
That's it.
All right.
See you, mate.
Have a good one, mate. Cheers.
You too. Bye-bye.